Everyone, welcome to the Oviedo City Council meeting. It is Monday, October 17, a little bit before 6:30. Why don't we all rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Chief White.
Good evening.
Chief, how's that beautiful new home of yours?
Nice.
There you go.
We got a few boxes left if you want to come over afterwards and help me unpack a little more. Otherwise, coming together nicely. Well, I think we're all appreciative that we're in these chambers tonight and not still involved in disaster relief efforts. So but we will pray for those who are still suffering from that. If you'd like to join me in prayer, please do so at this time. Father God, thank you for the protection that you placed on Seminole County and the city of Oviedo. Lord, we suffered a little, we didn't suffer a lot, but we pray for those along the coastline and all the way through other states that suffered an incredible amount from this past hurricane event. Could have been much, much worse. We thank you, Lord, for the protection that you provided, keeping that dangerous storm away from us. Lord, we pray for our nation through the selectoral process. We pray for all our candidates seeking office that you would grant them wisdom and guidance and good health and blessings in all that they do. We pray for those that are seated in council and for those who have served and will be stepping down, that you grant their family blessings and safety and protection. Pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chief. This time I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 6:30 p.m. We have all members of council present. Our first item of business this evening, we have two ceremonial items, and the first one is the Life Saving Award from the Florida Police Chiefs Association. Chief Chudnow, your item.
Mayor, council members, I'm here tonight not just as the Chief of Police of the City of Oviedo, but also on behalf of the Florida Police Chiefs Association as a district representative. Here tonight to present two life-saving awards. These awards are also sponsored by the Harris Foundation. The awards are designated to recognize police officers for exceptional life-saving acts. As you know, police officers put their lives on the line each day to serve and protect their communities. Police officers also save lives, and we're here today to honor just that. I'd like to invite Officers Chris Salemi and James Dominguez up to the podium, please. And I would also like to invite Nick Scardino, a representative of Harris Corporation, who sponsors this award for the state. On May 11, 2016, just after 6 a.m., Oviedo Police would dispatch to a resident of a 68-year-old female who was not breathing. Officer Salemi arrived at the scene and observed the male on the left side of the house crying hysterically. He asked the male where the person was who needed assistance, and the male pointed in the opposite direction. As he entered one bedroom near the rear bedrooms, he noticed a female attending to an older female who was face up on the ground next to the bed. He assisted the female up from attending the injured female and immediately discovered the victim was not breathing. He could not find a pulse. Officer James Dominguez assisted him in tilting the female's head back and clearing the obstructed airway and performing CPR for approximately 6 sessions of compressions until Oviedo Fire Department arrived. One officer then followed them to the emergency room, and the staff notified him that the female was now breathing shallow and did have a pulse. On behalf of the Florida Police Chiefs Association and the Oviedo Police Department, We are proud to present a life-saving award to Officer Chris Salemi and Officer James Dominguez for their saving of the life of the lady. I'd just like to read what the plaque says. In recognition of your decisive action that was instrumental in saving a precious life. On behalf of the Florida Police Chiefs Association, the Board of Directors and members.
Great job, guys. Nick, did you have anything that you wanted to add as a sponsor? No.
As a representative, I just want to say thank you for allowing us to be here. Certainly, thank you for your service. Thank you all.
Tennessee.
Guys, awesome job. Thank you. We might as well stay down because we have another ceremonial item. Brian, who's handling this one?
I guess I will. Mr. Robert Brooks from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is here tonight to present a ceremonial check for a Florida Recreation Development Assistance grant that the city has received, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Brooks.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and fellow councilmen. It's my privilege tonight to represent DEP Secretary Stevenson in presenting you with this check. In my day-to-day job, I manage over 40,000 plus acres for the state to provide resource-based recreation. That is canoeing, camping, hiking. You're not going to find ball fields. You're not going to find a tennis court. We used to joke around, you'd find water, but not a water slide. Then we bought Weeki Wachee a few years ago. But yeah, we have mermaids who are all now state employees.
You have mermaids who are in FRS.
Yes. But the ball fields are important. Myself, growing up in the inner city, you know, the baseball field, the basketball court was very important. With this grant, through the FERDAP program, which is a competitive grant program, this year there were 137 recipients of around $8 million. The City of Oviedo Sports Complex has obtained a grant for $200,000, which the city, I believe, is matching to an equivalent amount to refurnish your existing ball fields and softball fields, build a new concession, improve the parking, and just generally bring everything together to a nice thing for its citizens. It's my pleasure then to present you with this ceremonial check.
Where's the real one? We really do appreciate this, sir. We appreciate you taking the time to come down here and present this to us. And I can assure you the money will go to great use.
This is one of the more pleasurable things in my job. Walk out and present people who want it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Part of it. Not all of it, but part of it. Part of it.
Gentlemen, you want me to cut the ribbon? Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Thanks, sir.
Catch that.
I will. Tomorrow.
Alrighty, that'll put an end to our ceremonial items. Next item up on the agenda is the approval of our minutes for our October 3rd meeting. I'd like to entertain a motion to do so.
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
No. Hearing none, call the vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is the public comment portion of our meeting. This is for any item that's not on the agenda this evening. If you have anything you'd like to address with council, please do so at this time. I have no written request. Seeing and hearing none, I am going to close public comment and move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda this evening is item number 5 through 10. What is the pleasure of council?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Henkin?
make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion second. Councilman Henkin, anything?
No, sir.
Councilwoman?
Nope.
Nothing, sir.
Deputy Mayor? Councilman Britton? No? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call the question. Motion on the table is to adopt as presented. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving along to our first item. It is a public hearing. It is item number 11. Give me a moment to catch up here. This is amending Chapter 34, Pensions and Retirement, for the Oviedo Police Officers Retirement Fund. Mr. Groot, will you do us the honor of reading this by title only, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Oviedo, Florida, amending Chapter 34, Pensions and Retirement, Article 2, relating to the Police Officers Retirement Fund, amending Section 34-19, Definitions, amending Section 34-20, Membership, amending Section 34-22, Finances and Fund Management, Establishment and Operation of the Fund, amending Section 34-24, Benefit Amounts and Eligibility, amending Section 34-25, Pre-Retirement Death, amending Section 34-26, Disability, amending Section 34-29, Optional Forms of Benefit, amending Section 34-34, Maximum Pensions, amending Section 34-35, Minimum Distribution of Benefits, amending Section 34-38, Domestic Relation Orders, Retiree-Directed Payments, Exemption from Execution, Non-Assignability, amending Section 34-46, Prior Police Service, providing for codification, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. That's the ordinance by title, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Groot. Mr. Cobb, can you enlighten us, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of ordinance number 1642 is to amend the city's code of ordinances to bring the Chapter 34, which deals with retirement, into compliance with the Internal Revenue Code, as well as to implement guidance that was given by the Internal Revenue Service. It's recommended that the City Council conduct a public hearing and adopt ordinance number 1642.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address council on ordinance number 1642? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and move on to the pleasure of council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman
I'd
Henkin.
like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1642.
Second.
Motion, we have a second. Councilman Henkin, you have the floor. Anything?
No, sir.
Deputy Mayor?
No, sir.
Councilwoman?
No, sir.
No? Councilman Britton's good. Well, I think as Mr. Cobb has stated eloquently twice now, this is really just a lot of house cleaning in this item. Motion on the table is to adopt ordinance number 1642. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving along, we have no first readings this evening. We have resolution number 13, which is, let's see, it's item 13, excuse me, resolution number 3219-16, classification and payment plan. Let me just catch up here, and we will move on to that. Mr. Cobb, enlighten us.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request for the council to adopt a classification and compensation plan, which is commonly known as a pay plan. And, Linda, if you could just pull up the PowerPoint for us. So we just got a short PowerPoint. A few years ago, I was looking for a way that we could reward our top-performing employees. And so we formed a committee of employees across the departments, and I challenged them. I said, go and try to find a program that we can where we can reward the employees. And Linda, if you can go ahead and you can flip it on to there we go. And so the committee went searching for different programs throughout the country. They did find a program that was through the state of Colorado. And one of the things that the state of Colorado learned was that before you could implement anything of a structure that would reward employees for good work, is that you needed to make sure that your compensation and pay plan was up to date. The city's plan wasn't up to date. And so the committee embarked on a process to bring about recommendations for the compensation and pay plan. An RFP was issued, and City Council did approve the RFP and approved Management Advisory Group to conduct the analysis for the pay plan. And Linda, if we could go on to the next one. Management Advisory Group conducted a very comprehensive analysis. It was based on salary surveys of area cities, counties, as well as the University of Central Florida. Even some private entities were contacted regarding that. There was job analysis questionnaires that were given to each employee that were reviewed by each of their supervisors as well as directors. And the answers to those job analysis questionnaires were used to create a quantitative point factor system. There were also interviews with myself, the department directors, as well as 53 employees were interviewed as part of this process. MAG also went through and reviewed organizational structures and there were internal equity concerns with different positions, so we wanted to make sure that they addressed those as well. And if we could move to the next one. The pay plan structure, the compensation structure was revised based on the market study. In other words, they took the market information and they came up with a market point for each of the pay bands. And then when they went backwards to create the minimum, they went forward to create the maximum. And one of the things that we established is that from the minimum to the maximum was a 60% pay difference between the two. There was also a progression of 25 years between the minimum to the maximum, and then a progression of 7 years to go from the minimum to the midpoint. The other thing was that there was a 5% difference between the individual pay bands. So if you moved from one pay band to the next, there would be a 5% difference between them. And if we could go to the next one. The early findings of it was that the city's current pay plan was 2% below minimum, was about 4.2% below midpoint, and then about 6% below maximum. This is overall. This doesn't get into, in some different pay bands were different percentages, but just overall, these were the findings, the initial findings. Now, the initial pay, Linda, if we could go to the next, right there, that's where we want to be. The original salary survey was conducted in 14-15, and so in preparing the 16-17 pay plan, MAG did an adjustment of 2%. They looked at the market, and there was an average of about a 2% increase from 15-16, and then about an average of a 3% increase for 16-17. So they took the 14-15 data and progressed it, the 2% and then the 3%, to come up with the recommendations for 16-17. Lynn, if we go to the next one, 161 positions were analyzed as part of this report. 103 positions require some type of adjustment. 58 of those were required to get to the new minimum. Some of our positions were below the new minimum, so they required an adjustment to get there. And then there were also 58 positions that did not require an adjustment because they were already either at their market or ahead of their market. In the FY 2016 budget, you adopted funds to begin the implementation of this plan. Back in 2014-15, the city did set aside monies to implement the first phase of this plan, and we carried it over into 2015-16, and now we carried it over into 2016-17. There are sufficient funds to get those 58 positions to the minimum. There's also sufficient funds to begin to address the compression within the different pay bands by an allowance of up to $1,250 assigned to different positions. Not every position gets $1,250. Some get less than that, but it's based on where they should be according to the market study. And if we could go to the next one. Tonight, it is recommended that the City Council approve the new pay plan. This will allow us to be more competitive when we recruit skilled employees. It will also work to improve the retention of our employees. And hopefully, it's going to be reducing the turnover that we will have. And then, obviously, when an employee leaves, we have certain training expenses that we have to go through to bring that new employee on. A little bit of housekeeping. There was an executive summary that was provided to you as part of your packet. The last page of that executive summary, we did find some typographical errors, and so the executive summary that is on your dais tonight, the reason it's flipped over to the last page is because I wanted to show you that those typographical errors were corrected for that, and so it's recommended that the City Council adopt resolution number 3290-16. Ms. Carolyn Long with Management Advisory Group is here, as well as Ms. Collins and myself to address any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. I have no request to speak forms on this item, but as is customary when I don't, I always ask, is there anybody who would like to address council? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment portion and move on to the pleasure of council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Henkin.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 3290-16.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Councilman Henkin, you have the floor.
Well, I think this is just a long time coming. I mean, for so many years, through the recession, we asked our employees to do so much with sometimes so little, and to wear multiple hats. And what's pretty telling is that the graph, I think it's the last one in our packet. We've had some turnover. When I look back at the fire department, when I first got up here, they had lots of people leaving. All of us up here took a look at that, and through the years, it didn't happen overnight, but we put in some, pay adjustments and benefit adjustments, and now everybody is trying to come in here. We get one position, 100 people apply for it. So I think it's, it's just about time to take care of our employees and, make Oviedo the place to be instead of the place to be and come and get great training and then leave and go somewhere else. We'll just keep you here. But I just want to say, however this goes, I just want to thank our employees for many years for stepping up, especially this storm that just happened. You see what goes on and how fast the city got cleaned up. You all deserve it, and hopefully we'll find a way to get it going to you and get in your pocketbooks quick. That's how I see it. Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman?
I agree with everything that Councilman Henkin said. We have promised and promised throughout the years, and the employees, were very loyal and just really stepped up and wore many hats, as Councilman Henkin said, and just did the job. We kept promising, saying we will do it as soon as we can, and now that we can, I'm so glad that I'm grateful that I'm still here, that we're able to get them where they belong. And I just hope that it'll continue and through year after year, that we keep our good employees well compensated. So I am happy about that. And thank you, Connie, for all the work you did. Great plan, and I think it's really overdue. So congratulations.
Councilman Britton?
Well, ditto. I do want to say that we do have great employees. I watched the fellas Friday afternoon last week. At 5 o'clock, the storm wasn't even out of Daytona yet, and they were out there sweeping the street up there at Claire Evans Way. So the response to the hurricane was great. Brian, I want to get a clarification. We spoke about this, and I've always wondered why we are even voting on this and why staff can't determine what a market rate for an employee is. Just for the record, can you tell us what our responsibility up here is as far as a policy and what staff is responsible for?
Yes, sir. The policy side of all of this is the pay structure, which is what is attached to your resolution. So it establishes the different pay plans, and it establishes the location where the different positions are within that pay band. That's the policy side, and it establishes the minimum, the midpoint or market point, and then the maximum. The implementation, the policy side of the implementation is the council approving through the budget, but it's the staff's role to come in and to formulate how to implement and which positions are critical, which positions need to be the different compression issues to be addressed. And so that's our role, is to go in and to determine those as far as those pay levels, to determine those and then to bring those to you for approval as part of the budget. So there's a policy side, there's an implementation side that the staff does, that the staff takes care of. This report gives us the guidance on which to do that.
Okay. And I would assume, I don't know when the last time we did this, but you're going to periodically now update the...
If I remember right, the last time we did this was in 2005. I think it was 2005 was the last time we did it.
Still here.
That preceded me.
Yes.
It preceded some old people on this council, but it preceded me.
With the way the economy is ever changing, yes, we're going to have to look at it more frequently. And if there are some major revisions that are needed, then obviously we'll bring them to council for consideration. Hopefully we can, if there's minor things that the staff can take care of on a, let's say on a position level, then we can do that as well.
The other concern I had was on flexibility, and we talked about an employee maybe being classified as a forklift operator. I'll just use that, and he's being asked to operate a street sweeper, which requires special training, but he's still getting paid for as a forklift operator. So in the future, will there be, and this is what we'll get to my final point, will there be the flexibility to classify a person with multiple job descriptions so that they can get compensated for the actual work they're doing?
My understanding is that will be taken into account. The fact that the way that we will have the different positions, the way that they are structured. One of the reasons that they do the job analysis questionnaire is not to learn so much what's in your job description, but it's to learn what you actually do and to learn what your certifications are and those types of things. And then there's a point system that's established that takes all of that into account. And so then, yes, it would allow one to say, hey, I'm doing more, and it would allow them to be compensated that way. But it would be one of those things where we would have to go in and do a desk audit, basically, and look at it from that standpoint. But it should have, through this process, that should have been recorded in their job analysis questionnaire, and that we should know then who's doing that, and that should have been inputted into the system so that the output would be that it was taken into account.
Okay. And I guess the final point I have is maybe a challenge to you and the directors to, this isn't going to be free, and I think you've made arrangements to afford it for the short term, but I've always said, at least in the last couple of years, that we've got to learn how to do more with less. And so if we have a person that's got the capabilities to do 1 or 2 or 3 different jobs, we should compensate them for that and not have to hire someone else to do one specific thing and another person for the other. And I think in the long run, we'll be better off for it, and we'll be it'll be more affordable for us and more sustainable. So work on that. More for less and more productivity. There's technology all over the place that helps us do our jobs better. So I'm just throwing that out to you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Deputy Mayor?
Mr. Cobb, first off, the 2 and 3%, that basically was the salary like each year for 2014, 14, 15, 16,
Yes, sir.
16, 17. Same job, same years of service, basically, they went up 2%. The market went up 2% for John Smith, who is a number 7, whatever, in that band. Went up 2% one year and 3% the next year to afford them, and that's the average of the whole city. So the market on a whole went up 5% over the 2 years for the same person, same band. Is that what I'm understanding? Or is it wrong?
My understanding is that when they did the initial run, after they did the market surveys, and they did the initial run and computed the market point, the minimum and the maximum, that was based on the 2014-15 data for each of the pay bands.
Right.
And then when they looked at 2015, they looked at the area and they said, well, the area had the market increased approximately 2%. So they did a 2% adjustment to each of the pay bands in the minimum, the midpoint, and the max. And then for 2016-17, they looked at it again and they said, well, there was about a 3% across, area-wide, about a 3% increase. And so they did another adjustment of the 3% to come up with the final recommended pay plan, is what they did. So it was more based on the pay structure than it was an individual position. That's my understanding.
Okay. Okay. You're being very nice when you say, I'll say typographical errors. I was unhappy with the one that was put out first, the executive summary with the numbers that were in there, et cetera. How are you going to implement this? There's 3 different implementations here: a 1-year, 2-year, and a 3-year implementation. Which one do you feel you're going to implement this with?
My recommendation is that we go with the 2-year. And the main reason being is that our current FY 16-17 budget cannot implement the entire program. So my recommendation to you is that we would do a 2-year implementation. That's what we would do. The issue with the 3-year implementation is that there are very many variables. One of the things about these tables is that they are based on a lot of different variables, especially as employees progress within their pay band, what the city would approve as an annual increase, what would be the cost what would be the market adjustment that would be required. Those are just a few of them. And so when you're looking at beyond that 2nd year, it's a best guesstimate, is what it is.
Theoretically, we're talking 74 employees right now. That's, in theory, we've got 74 employees who aren't at the middle of the band and to the target point, I'll call it that.
They're not at their target, yes.
Before. There's a target point.
Yes, sir.
We've got 74 employees that aren't at the target point. So it's 74 employees. Now, if you, again, go 3 years out on the implementation, because, again, I did that spreadsheet like I said I would do.
Oh, good.
And it's very interesting.
Okay.
So you start, if we implement in the first year, we're going to add, it's $342,407. We're basically adding it to the city salary, right?
Yes, sir.
So at the end of the year, we'll spend $342,407 in additional salaries. Correct?
That's if you did a full...
First year. First year implementation.
That's a full implementation.
Right, full implementation.
If we did
1 year
everything.
implementation. Right, yeah.
Yeah, everybody, yes.
Okay, so that becomes our new salary point, is whatever we're at now, plus $342,000. So we'd be expected every year from that point forward to be adding $342,000. Again, I'm just simple lining the first one. We're adding $342,000 in salary. So the year after, we'd be adding $342,000. Every year would be $342,000, not additional, but there would be $342,000 that would be necessary from that point forward.
I would think that would be dependent upon what the annual pay increase would be. And I think would also be dependent upon if we...
Well, if we get them to the middle line, we're getting them to a point. If
we're getting them to that
point. They're making $1
point
now and they're supposed to be making $1.50, they're now making 50 cents more a year. They're going to make that $1.50 next year. So every year from that point forward, we're going to be paying that.
They'll make that $1.50 plus whatever annual increase
and then
you give
an annual
them.
increase.
Yes.
I'm not even going to get into the annual increase, 2.4%.
Right. Yes.
But 50 cents more a year from that point forward.
They would, yes,
Right.
based on this year, yes.
So, you know, if you implement it in 1 year, the first year, if you do this all in 1 year, it's $350,000 the first year.
Yes.
I'll put the 2.4% because that's what we talked about earlier. It's $359,040 the second year. You know, and et cetera. So it's about $1 million after 3 years is what it costs you.
Could be.
Right. If you implement it in 1 year. If you do it all in the first year.
Right.
Same strategy goes for the second year, 2 and 3. We need to look at those numbers because, again, I know this is all confusing because we talked about it for a while today.
Yes.
And it does get very complicated for year 2 and 3. But if you just use the base numbers that they're talking, it's a $4,000 difference at the end.
Okay.
And what so I implore you to look at it in the years to come. How much actual salary, recurring salaries will be added on year to year to year to year to year. Again, it's 74 people. It's not a real hard thing to do with a spreadsheet and just a little bit of, but look at the year-to-year costs that you're adding on from first year, second year, third year, and what it'll start costing year to year to year to get us there in 3 years or 5 years out.
So did I understand you said it's a $400,000 increase over the 3 years?
Well, it's a $342,000 to get us if you do everything in the first year, get everybody whole, bring them to the midpoint, to their target point. Well, that's your new salary band. Then everybody gets, so the next year we had 2.4%. Right. So it becomes 360, 350, and then 359. So it's about $1 million over 3 years. If you do it with a 2-year plan, it's really only 730. The numbers change drastically, and that's my point is you have to look at it not just, well, the 2-year plan kind of gets us there in a smaller step, but what else is happening? Look at the whole picture over the next 5 years.
That's why 16 is your base year.
Right.
Yes.
And start looking at these 5 years out versus just, hey, it's a 2-year plan and this will get us there, but what is it going to continue doing and how is it, and how will that affect us? The other thing is I'll implore you, and I told you this, but I want to say it from here. Everything everybody said up here is true. Every employee. I can't tell you the utmost respect for, you know, the councilman and I are leaving 10 years here. I've known some of these people for about 15, almost 18 years. The one thing that's brought out in some methods, some people are so grossly and have been underpaid. And it's not employees to me. There's a bunch of them, people. And I don't know I know maybe 1 or 2 who they are, so to speak, but there are more that are so grossly underpaid in terms of getting them to that target and have been that way for many, many, many years. If that's not the term loyalty right there to the city, I mean, you guys brought it up. I just can't even, I was with Brian today about this. I go, that to me is, we need to, I implore you to prioritize. I said it last time even without realizing how bad it was. I'm not an across the board, give $12.50 as a man, blah, 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 blah person. And especially when there is huge, I mean, these are so varied. And the number of years some of these people have been here at thousands and thousands of dollars a year, that I can say their loyalty has to be rewarded at some point and say, wow, You need to make up, we need to make you up a lot quicker and not spend 2 years. There is a prioritization to get them there. I will implore you. Again, that's your decision. I understand that, but I will just say, really delving in and looking at that part, it just shows the loyalty of some of these people, and there are 11, 12 of them, something
There's
like
11
that.
of them, yes, sir.
11 people that you just go, wow. I mean, they should be thanked every day by every one of us, because the time and the amount of, again, I'm going to say, underfunded that they've been for these many years, they just show the true loyalty to the city. Again, with everybody else. I don't dissuade that everybody else has too. It's been an honor. But I just see that and go, wow, there are some people who are just, this will affect them greatly, and they should be thanked and affected greatly. That's it.
Thank you. Brian, just do have just a few questions.
Yes, sir.
Of course. But Councilman, Deputy Mayor Schenk's point was one of my points, but I'm going to start with that one. I seem to remember in one of the workshops we had about this that it was your intention to direct most of this funding towards the problem areas first and not upper management. Am I correct in that statement?
Yes, sir. It is. We identified what we called the criticals, and the criticals there were two types of criticals. One was the positions that we have a very difficult time hiring, and that's where the establishing of the new minimums really have helped us out a lot. The other criticals are the ones that Mr. Schenk just mentioned, that have that large market adjustment that is needed, and there's about 11 positions there. We, in this first phase of it, we concentrated on getting everyone to the minimum because we felt that was the biggest bang for the buck that we had. And then the second thing was starting to address, like Mr. Schenk said, trying to address with the monies we had left over after we got everyone to minimum, trying to address those criticals and getting them moved forward closer to their target salary. And so, yes, sir, you're right. It is. We are focusing on those first and not on the upper management.
Okay. So I also remember hearing somewhere along the line and looking through here, I mean, the department directors look like they're all pretty well taken care of.
Yes, sir. The department directors are pretty well taken care of.
So
Yes, sir.
we're not going to be seeing increases in department directors.
Well, just what the annual what they would receive each year. Yes, sir.
All right. Because the issue becomes, Brian, and I think this is what Deputy Mayor was saying and did say, we approved the budget, but in the end, you implement it. And especially when it comes to salaries, hiring, firing, and all of that of the team that we have in the city other than city attorney, city manager, and city clerk. I mean, that's all council really at the end is responsible for. So the biggest thing that we do every year other than setting policy is setting budget. I don't have an issue with this. I brought up the compounding concerns to you as well, but it is something that needs to be addressed, and it can't just we can't just keep kicking it down the road. But one thing I'm going to bring up, and I've brought this up numerous times, and it's touched on in this report, but there's no definitive answer on it, and it gets back to the same problem with the 2004 report, is that, everybody's deserving of more money. Nobody is stating that. But the problem becomes is where are we with benefits? And because back in 2003 and 4, I'm going to remind everybody what happened. We gave everybody big bumps in pay. Everybody was happy, and, then 2 or 3 years later, we started hearing about the benefits. So now you want pay, you want benefits, you want this, you want that. There has to be one comprehensive package here. And then we went through the recession, so we had to cut back on 401 contributions, which I think now we're much more in line with private enterprise than we are necessarily with government enterprise, but, we are trying to hire government workers. So when I look through here and, again, I don't know what the consultant was asked for, but, the executive summary I got on benefits, it doesn't say anything. I mean, they I don't know, did you read it?
Yes, sir, I did.
Do you find that to be comprehensive?
Basically, what it told me was that our benefits package is competitive with our surrounding neighbors in the Central Florida area. Our weak link, you touched upon it just now, the weak link of that package is the retirement plan. But it's still, as you mentioned, Mary, it is competitive with private sector. Our benefit cost of 36% is right in line with what the benefit cost of the other local governments in the area of around 37%. So what it told me was that we have a competitive benefit package. To me, what it means is that once we get the pay plan in line, then the benefits package may be what makes the difference between them coming here and not coming here.
All right, so then I'll put you on the spot.
Yes, sir.
So then what you just told your council and future council members is the pay plan is what you need, and you're not going to be coming back to us in 2 years and saying, now I need benefits plan. Because benefits have less of a cost to an organization than pay. We give people pay, then we have all of those hidden costs with pay that nobody ever wants to talk about or factor in. You have workman's comp, you have Social Security.
Medicare.
Pardon?
Medicare.
Right. Medicare. Yes. You have all these hidden costs when you add $10,000 to somebody's salary. But, you give somebody $5,000 worth of benefits, and now you actually have a deduction, so to speak, because you don't have to pay those costs on that benefit. So that's my concern here. I see critical employees, as Councilman Schenck pointed out. I see lower management and the actual troops in the field with wide disparity in pay band. I see upper management and department directors. A couple of upper managements have a wide band. Upper management, you're all taken care of.
Yes, sir.
So you're all fine, which is troubling to me in its own right, but that'll be a discussion for another day, how it got to that point. But the issue is this the last ask for the time being? I mean, you can't come back to us. We can't commit $1 million over 3 years or whatever it ends up being with implementation, and then all of a sudden be told, well, now we still can't hire people because we're not in FRS. Well, if we should be in FRS to do that, then maybe that's what we should be doing. Maybe instead of increasing pay, we should be switching retirement plan. Because that's what we've lost employees to. We've lost employees to going back into FRS. Employees who had, had 10 or 12 years in it, and I don't blame them. Mm-hmm. You don't want to give that up. You don't want to lose it. So a lot of work went into this. The employees who made up the team obviously spent a lot of time really getting down into the details. The consultant did a decent job of putting it all together. Still not very happy with the executive summary that we requested or the benefits executive summary, but next time we do this, perhaps we'll find somebody different. But for the time being, as long as you're comfortable that your benefits plan is where you want it, and you don't want to pause, go backwards, and make sure that you shouldn't be reallocating things and shifting them around a little bit. I mean, I have no problem supporting you on this. But if you're going to, come back to us and ask for more dollars later on, that I'll have a problem with that. So it's your call.
I understand.
Well, you didn't answer my question. Are you comfortable with the way this is?
Quite honestly, yes, sir, Mayor, I am.
Okay.
This is the first step. And
Well, I needed to hear.
it's interesting. Every time we have open enrollment, I think a number of employees will sit there and tell you, every time we have open enrollment, the folks who from Gehring Group and the different companies that we work with, the word rich is always used. You have a rich program here.
Oh, well,
the fact
Brian,
that,
there is no doubt about our health insurance is exceptional.
Yes.
Our clinic is, bar none. We led with having the clinic. It was Papka Okoye than us.
Right.
I mean, with staff putting that together. That was an exceptional cost savings to the city and a benefit to the employees. Our vacation packages,
yes,
accumulation of days,
yes,
all of that is fine. What it boils down to with us is our 401 versus
FRS.
defined benefit.
Yes.
So, and, that's always the big one.
Would you like us to go do an investigation of what it would cost to transfer over to FRS?
Yes.
I would just like to know,
Okay.
if the council would like to know. It sounds like you got 5 nodding heads. I mean,
That sounds good. We'll do that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Just we'll
I
wait.
think
We'll wait
it's a
for 3
question
years.
that you know what? If you come back into the room and you tell us it's $10 million to switch over, well, then we'll enjoy your 401.
That's right.
But let's at least see. Maybe it's a matter of you're not converting, but those who come on have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
At the state agencies now, that's what they have. They have a choice. They can go into FRS, or they can go into 457. I forgot what it's called.
Right. They have their own version of the 401.
Schools.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
They have their own version of the 401 is what they have. And,
right. So,
but yes, sir, we'll be happy to look at it. It was one of the things that Ms. Collins and I were talking about this afternoon, is that when we start having the budget discussions, we want to bring you more information on the implementation. That's going to be one of the hot topics that we're going to talk about, because it is a priority. And knowing that the monies that we set aside 2 years ago would not be enough to fully implement, to get us, as Mr. Shank correctly said, to get us to that target. Mm-hmm. And then one of the things that, when he and I were discussing today, we came to a quick conclusion that just making the target, there's another step.
Right.
And so how we go about that, that's our decision. I mean, as a collective group, that's our decision. There's a policy side. There's also an implementation side with the staff. And so that was one of the things that, in trying, with all the different variables that go into computing this, well, what's it going to be in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? One of the things that he and I were trying to do was to say, okay, how can we do this simply? And come up with an idea about where we would be. And so that was when we started looking at, okay, well, if we started out at 342 and then started working our way from there, we were able to, through our discussion with each other, we were able to come up with, well, maybe we have some comparison here. Mm-hmm. But that's one of the things that Ms. Collins and I were talking about, is that we want to come back to you. We want to show you those 74 and show you how that we can do it within the structure that we have. I know before Ms. Hayes left, one of the things we talked about was what could we do at mid-year next year, in March, and then so that we could do something at mid-year and then possibly do something later on. Okay. But, Mary, you're right. The benefits are something that we often look at. It's something that you've been mentioned about. And like I said, it's a good plan. We have a good plan. It's just that the weak link, if you wanted to say that, was the retirement system. And yes, we'll be happy to go in and look at how we can provide that option.
I just wanted to express that because I brought it up at all the workshops, and I brought it up to you when we met, I, and Ms. Collins on this, and just want to make sure that we're on the same page as far as the criticals, the troops, and then working our way up rather than however we worked our way from the top down before.
Yes, sir. No,
all right, let me go up and down the dais one more time, see if anybody else has any other questions. I'll start with Councilman Henkin.
I just add a couple quick points. I think one of the most important things that was said here tonight, and Councilman Schenk, Deputy Mayor Schenk, took the words right out of my mouth. To those of you that stuck with us through those tough years, and there were times when I just said, I don't know how they do it. Believe me, it was noticed and recognized, and that really is a true test of character. To, wow, this is really gloomy. I'm driving home, talking to my spouse, my kids, and this is not good. And they're cutting here and there, but you guys stuck, and now you'll start to see it all come back. So, good things come to those who wait. So thank you so much for that. To the mayor's point, to you, Brian, are you going to come back to us again? Well, here's what I know where he's going, but unfortunately in life, you never know what the situation is going to be. I think we are set now for a couple years. Oviedo now, just with this vote, becomes a very popular place if it wasn't already, because we fixed these issues. I think one thing you have to remember as you go look through, the cost of this all is where we used to be. And I always use the firemen as the example. We were the training ground, and it costs so much money to retrain somebody. So that cost has to come into play that, if you don't do stuff like this, you have all these people coming and leaving, and it costs you so much more. So for me, it's better to pay it. Dominic is correct with the benefits and stuff, but you know what? People want the cash. The pension is a big issue. The FRS might be a way. There's not too many people do defined benefits. I'm glad that you're going to look into that. That may be, and not only look at it and implement it, but, conversion to it. If it's a lot of money, obviously we won't be able to do it, but certainly give that some priority. That would really put the icing on the cake, I think. People want to know when they're not here, after they've worked a very long career, that they have a little security. So that's good. But all in all, and I will just say, as far as the whole report, I don't think our consultant did a bad job. I think they did a good job. It just might have been one of those instances where it was a little too much information. Sometimes you can use the old book you used in high school when you didn't want to read Macbeth. You got that yellow book and you read 20 pages and you knew everything,
Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes, So sometimes that was good, but all in all...
I didn't say the report wasn't good. I said the executive summaries.
Right. So I think that was a lot of good information. So today was a good day for Oviedo's employees, and again, he hit it right on the head. Thank you all for staying here. It's a great place to be, and I don't want to say we're going to make it great again, but for a cliche, but we are good. We are good, and this just gave us something to put us right where we want to be.
We're going to keep it great.
Do you have a hat under the dais that says that?
I thought we were already great, but this just makes us greater.
Councilman Britton, do you have anything else to add?
I'm good. Enough said.
Councilwoman?
I'm good.
Deputy Mayor? All right. Motion on the table is to adopt Resolution 3290-16. After much discussion, I will call the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Nice.
Moving along, we're up to resolution number 3313-16. This is the site development order number 468-16 for Outback Steakhouse. Mr. Cobb, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request to approve a site development order and an architectural design order for a new Outback I'm sorry.
Linda, do you have the
new Outback Steakhouse
put up there?
that will be located at the intersection of Mitchell Hammock Road and Lake Jessup Avenue, where the old Bojangles restaurant was located. The property has a commercial future land use designation, as well as a C2 zoning district. The property currently has a building on it of 2,248 square feet. The building is currently vacant. The proposed use is a permissible use within the property zoning district. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing building and develop the property in a 6,670 square foot Outback restaurant. And you can see some of the architectural features that are provided there on the screen. The staff reviewed the plans and recommends approval. There are some deviations that are peculiar to the site. The site fronts on two streets, and so there's some things that we have to deal with the location of the sidewalk, as well as with the landscape buffer. There's also some deviations that are required regarding the architectural standards. And the reason these deviations are necessary is to accommodate this new design concept for Outback. Now, On a number of the different architectural standards, the applicant has provided mitigation, and mostly they deal with the secondary facades. They provided mitigation either in landscaping or as well as other features that are provided on the building. And so there's also some deviations regarding the equipment that is located on the roof. The applicant has taken mitigated measures as well, as even demonstrated line of sight to say that you've got to be almost basically across the street in order to even have a view of those. And so they've done the necessary ways to, as far as the location of the equipment on the roof, and then hiding it with the different parapets that they have proposed. The use of wood and stucco, there's deviations regarding that. Once again, that is to accommodate the new design of this new prototype for Outback Steakhouse. The staff recommends approval with the condition that the applicant pay $300 into the tree fund to mitigate some loss of existing trees. It's recommended that the City Council adopt Resolution Number 3313-16.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Is the applicant present?
Good evening. How are y'all doing tonight?
We're doing great. Just name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Bob Ziegenfuss, Z Development Services, 708 East Colonial Drive in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm the civil engineer for the project. We also have a representative of Outback here tonight who worked on the architecture for the building as well. We've worked with the staff probably over the last 4 to 5 months in reviewing the plans and going back and forth and providing those mitigating measures, as was mentioned by Brian here this evening, for the waivers that we are requesting. And we're here to certainly answer any questions that you have this night of the project.
Terrific. Let me see if there are any before you sit. Anybody have any questions for the applicant? No? I think we're good right now. Thank you. I have no requests to speak forums on this, but again, as is customary, I always do ask, is there anybody who would like to address council on Resolution 3313-16? I guess everybody likes blooming onions. All righty, so we'll move on. What is the pleasure of council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 3313-16.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Councilman Henkin.
I just want to say, you know, for a very long time, all of us, 5 of us, have sat up here and we've talked about how we didn't want buildings that look like Anywhere USA. And over the last couple of years, we're I guess, implementing, you know, these higher architectural buildings, things that make us unique, that spruce up the neighborhood. Outback has been a great partner here where they are for a few years, and to have them in this beautiful building that meets our new code just really makes me happy. The citizens, I think, are really going to enjoy it. It's beautiful, so you know, get it up there and we'll support you. It's good.
Great. Thank you. Councilman Britton.
Pretty much what I had to say. Outback's been a great member of our community. Alberto's a great guy. He helps us out with a lot of stuff, and I couldn't think of a better use of that lot than for this. I'm also pleased that staff, you're flexible enough to meet the zoning in progress, and we get a good project out of it. So, well done.
Great job by all. Councilwoman who can now walk to the new Outback.
I can walk down there, have breakfast, lunch, well, just lunch and dinner. Yeah, we're real excited over there in that part of town. It's going to really help, really improve the appearance of coming in Mitchell Hammock Boulevard into our city and stuff. So we're happy you're coming. I've been waiting for this day, so I want to be there for the grand opening. But I won't be on city council, so you're going to have to invite me.
We'll invite you.
We'll make sure you're there.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
As Councilman Britton said, it's great that staff and the architects and everybody can work together and, again, implement such a beautiful design. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the hard work, both for staff and for you guys.
I do have one question for the applicant. Assuming this is approved this evening, what's your timeline?
I talked to the client earlier today, and it looks like probably right near the end of this year or the beginning of next year will be the start of construction. We're still going to be bidding it out to contractors here. With the holidays coming up, it becomes very difficult to start projects.
So it's summer next year?
Yeah.
Sometime summer 2017?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Thank you. Mr. Cobb, I do have one quick question. This may be better for Mr. Wyatt, but I'll direct it to you and you can decide. Access road on the south side of Mitchell Hammock at Lake Jessup going to Ale House, as well as the light at this intersection, now with this new Outback coming. What's our timelines?
Actually, I do need to have Mr. Wyatt do that
Okay.
one.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. Does the word soon qualify?
That's fine.
I'm waiting on basically a response.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Just an update
on what's going on.
I can give you some good information. We are, as you may remember, several months ago we did an agreement with the developers of Top Dog trying to work a way for them to construct the road for us. It's just a quicker procurement. Right. And that fell through because of the right-of-way issues we had with the neighboring property. Well, we've since solved them. And now we've gotten back with the developer. They are still interested in helping us out. And they are currently basically soliciting prices for the design. And we are waiting on that price. As soon as it happens, we come back to you to amend the agreement. And then we move forward to construct.
How about the light?
The light is, I would say, 98% designed. What happened was the design of the light started way before the adaptive traffic. So I had to come back and add the adaptive traffic. That's being done right now. And so what you're going to see as soon as the adaptive traffic comes in, which is soon as well, this light, once it goes in construction, we'll add it. And then there's so many things going on right now. It's pretty neat with the symbiotic relationship.
Great. And we see, since you mentioned the adaptive traffic light controls, see the cameras going up, so that's got to be getting close.
The last thing we were waiting on, the hybrid cable, was theoretically, hypothetically, delivered today to Seminole County, and it should be installed within the next 2 weeks, and then they should start programming.
Great. Then the computers take over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on, Bobby. Be a little bit more enthusiastic.
No, I'm all excited for it. I just want to see it
There'll
work.
be some people sitting in the left turn lane on Lockwood that'll be happy to see that go in.
Absolutely.
It'd be nice to see some of those turns get cleared out by the computer rather than just the standard, age-old timing.
Yes, sir.
Because the timing is, it's frustrating for the residents, ourselves. I had every light on Mitchell Hammock this morning when I made a right off of 434. Every stinking light. So
Well, there's more coming, so it'll be more.
Yeah, well, that's why we need the adaptive light control. Nice. But, all righty, any questions for Bobby?
Yes, sir.
No? Thank you, Bobby.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for the applicant? Councilwoman, anything?
No.
Nope, you're good? Okay. All righty, hearing and seeing none, I will call the vote. The motion on the table is to adopt 3313-16. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Go build an Outback, guys. All righty, moving along.
13-50, right?
What's that?
What was the motion?
3313-16.
Oh.
The next one is 3315-16.
Okay. Misunderstood.
Yeah.
216.
Yeah, when my eyes first looked at it, I got them confused as well. All right, so we're up to item number 15. This one is Resolution 3315-16. This is Site Development Order number 435-14. It's an amendment to a PSP, Foster's Grove. Mr. Cobb, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just going to see if I could make sure I got the right attachment here. There was a graphic that I thought would be appropriate to put up on the screen, and so I was going to ask Ms. DeBonis if she would pull it up.
We're just taking out a sidewalk. I'm not sure a graphic is completely necessary.
Well, this is a request to amend the approved Foster's Grove preliminary subdivision plan. The plan currently includes the construction of a pedestrian sidewalk from the western recreation area of the subdivision through a public right-of-way over connecting to Lake Charm Circle. And we were approached by residents on Lake Charm Circle that the right-of-way runs between, and there's a safety concern that folks would be traveling back and forth by their rear yards as well as their side yards. There's also a safety concern that the sidewalk will connect to the playground, recreation area on the west side of the subdivision. The neighbors from Lake Charles Circle did approach City Council about that. The applicant agrees with their request to remove the pedestrian walkway, and so the applicant submitted a request to amend the subdivision plan to no longer require the construction of the sidewalk. We believe that the safety concerns merit the approval of the request, and so therefore it's recommended that the City Council adopt resolution number 3315-16.
Great, thank you, Mr. Cobb. Applicant present, do you have anything to add, or is staff good? Remove the sidewalk, is that what I'm saying, or hearing? Okay.
While we're talking to the applicant, I saw a mugshot in the newspaper of a guy named Dave Brown. You want to stand up, your new employee for MI now?
I suggest
Dave and I used to coach Little League baseball together.
Mugshot, okay. Where am I? All righty, I'm up to public comments. I do have one written request. Would you like to?
I'll offer to make comments, and I'll wait for time.
Okay, well, I'll let you reserve the right to yell at us if it doesn't go your way. How's that sound? All righty, is there anybody else who'd like to address council on this item? Hearing none, I will close the public comment portion, and I'll move on to the pleasure of council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Henkin.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 3315-16.
Second.
Sorry, you can have it if you want.
All righty, Councilwoman Drago. Councilman Henkin, anything?
Nope, I agree with the safety and everything Brian said, so it's good.
Councilwoman?
I'm good.
Deputy Mayor?
Everybody's happy? That's it.
Councilman Britton?
I'm happy.
I like sidewalks. Oh, no, I'm only kidding. All righty. Seeing and hearing none, motion on the table is to adopt 3315-16, removing the sidewalk to nowhere. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There we go. Moving along, discussion items. We have none, so we are up to reports. Mr. Cobb, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give you some things that are coming up. On October the 27th, we have our monthly Food Truck Thursdays at Center Lake Park. On the 28th and 29th, the city's annual Carnival of Screams will be held at Riverside Park, as well as on the 31st will be the Teeny Weeny Halloweeny for those of our smaller generations. And then on Saturday, November the 12th, a great day in the country will be held at Center Lake Park. And so I just wanted to give you an update on that. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Great. Mr. Groot, anything for us?
I have nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
All righty. Who's up? Councilman Henkin.
It's a couple quick things. I just want to pay some tribute to our chiefs, our public works, our finance director, and everybody who sat in that EOC that I know all of us came and visited during that storm, who watched over the city. I mean, there's nothing more unnerving. Your power's out, all hell's breaking loose, but I can assure you that I talked to Chief a day or two after that when the sun was shining, and Chief White told me, I'm not going home until everybody's power's back on. So that's the kind of city you have in a response, and I will agree. I saw a picture online somebody posted where there was a drawing of the state of Florida with God's hand right in between it and the storm out, and it is so true. I mean, we were all hoping, and then at the last minute just jogged out there, 120 mile, 30 mile an hour gust became 60. But the city was still a little bit of a mess, and, my trips over to see our staff, I mean, what they were doing there and how they got the city cleaned up was a menace. So hats off to all of you that worked over there. Everybody was represented very well. And then finally, the farewell tour of Councilwoman Drago and Deputy Mayor Schenk has one more meeting on November 7th, if you can believe that, after all these years. I was looking at that today. I said to Councilman Schenk, so you got one more meeting. I said, wow. Well, no, he only has one, because the December 5th, they'll be welcoming in their new people. So one more meeting to legislate, and it's very hard to believe that is. But your predecessors are sitting out there, and they're all good people. So, there'll be two big seats with big shoes to fill up here, and you're all capable. And bet you're all glad campaign season's, going to be over soon. It's very hard mentally and whatever, but you're all doing fine. So, but anyway, you guys have fun at your next meeting. Get everything off your chest, write it all down, and come in there and do what you got to do. But that's all I got.
Thanks. Yeah, I think at the next meeting we'll just open reports up for 10 minutes, and you can just have at it. Because just think about the fun you could have.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Councilwoman, you're up.
I would also like to thank everyone in the city for what they did during the hurricane and afterwards, and I was very, very impressed. It just seemed to be so much easier this time than it was. I realize it wasn't Hurricane Charlie like it was, but still, everything, the electricity got back on, the streets got cleaned up right away. Republic Services have been working, every single day, making trips, and, I no sooner got a complaint where their garbage or, yard waste got picked up. So I know it took a lot of work, and I stayed out of your hair. And because I remember in Fort Lauderdale we had to work, and my husband and I would work opposite shifts, so one of us could be home with the kids at different times. And he, of course, got the worst time to go in. So I know how difficult it is, and I appreciate it. It was a good job. Everyone needs to be congratulated.
Great. Anything else?
That's it.
No. Councilman Britton, you're up.
All right, I'm going to pile on that. I've got two examples. One is my 6 o'clock on Friday morning, just before the worst of it got here. My 85-year-old neighbor decided to walk around the neighborhood with his umbrella. And Chief, thanks for getting the officer out there. For those of you who don't know, they were patrolling the streets all night and all during the storm, as long as the winds were down. And he showed up and put Bert back at home where he belonged. The other one was a phone call I got on Saturday, kind of a complaint that the city wasn't removing trees fast enough on Magnolia, and the power company wouldn't have power on until Monday or Tuesday. And lo and behold, I went down to the street. There was a power company crew out there that had just arrived from Georgia. Mm-hmm. So thanks to the Georgians for coming to the rescue. They said they had it under control, and as far as I know, the power was back on that night before dinner time. So some of those complaints of lack of service were ill-founded. So again, thanks a lot, guys, for the great effort. Everyone's proud of you. And the only other thing I have is, Chief, once again, good time at National Night Out. I hit the south end of town, Dominic's neighborhood and Alafaya Woods, and they all seem to have a great time. And I ate way too much potato pancakes and hot dogs and pizza, but it was a good night. So that's my report.
Great.
Did you have one of those jerk hot dogs?
No, we didn't have them this year.
In Alafaya,
Yeah.
Did they have them, Chief?
Yes, they did.
I missed them this year.
Hey,
Darn.
Chief, that is worthy of noting. Councilman Britton hit that. I meant to say that, and I called you on that. It was so noticeable. You had a lot of guys out there where there was no power, making sure nothing happened, and residents are really looked after in times of need. So that was awesome.
I can be real brief because everything's been said about the storm. Councilman Britton, one thing I learned about Magnolia was from Bobby Wyatt was someone was backfeeding their generator through their house and didn't turn off their main.
That's not a good thing.
So the line was actually live, which is why it wasn't cleaned up sooner.
That's not a good thing.
So
Did they find out who it was?
somehow they cleared it.
Really?
We also had a similar issue to that on Panther Street as well. One of the trees was wrapped in wires, and the generator was backfeeding it. And
Right. So just
Can we put out a public service announcement, Lars, and
We do.
safety on how to use those things?
We do, and Home Depots and Lowe's try the same thing. It's a constant education.
That should be step number one. Pull the breaker.
Right, turn off the main breaker before you backfeed it.
That's disturbing.
Yeah, so that's what had happened with Magnolia. So, and then Bobby, the storm debris pickup. I think we saw an email from Republic. We know it was a Herculean task. I know there's still some stuff still out there, but they're sweeping the city until Friday. Is that what I read? The 21st or something? or beyond if necessary. Alrighty. So anybody who hasn't had the larger piles picked up, I know there's some fence piles I've seen. I guess they were saving those for last because they were bigger. But City in Republic will be out there. We'll be getting to it, and we can put this storm behind us, and hopefully there won't be another one for another few years. All that being said, Deputy Mayor Schenk, you're up.
And also, Duke and FPL, they both did a great job. It is a dance to get everything done with our guys to remove, help get rid of some debris and wait for the power. So it was a bit of a dance. We all got calls from different areas and saying, hey, this one says that's got to go first. And it's, so it was great for all of them. They did a great job. Bobby's great seeing the light change over at Clara Lee and the entrance to Oviedo on the Park and Mitchell Hammock. It's got the left turn lane that I think is really going to work out very well. From someone who takes it frequently, it's a nice thing to see, and I think helps out because people are very hesitant to do anything. They get nervous, so it's nice to see. I think it'll work out really well. We mentioned before, just a real quick, about having the clinic, that is a great benefit, and not only is it a great benefit, but the little things within it. Flu shots are on right now, so employees get your flu shots, and it's got all 4 strains. So it's the good flu shot. As Councilman Councilman Hankins usually, we need the good flu. We get the good, So it's not only just a flu shot, it's got all 4 strains. It really takes care of everything. So, it is those little benefits that add up and up and up, and that clinic is one of them. And Boys Town. I'll let you please talk about Boys Town. You
Thursday
forgot.
night is a business after hours with the Oviedo Winter Springs Chamber. It's going to be a celebration of the 30-year anniversary of the Boys Town campus here in Oviedo, which is going to be an all-year celebration in conjunction with the 100-year anniversary of the original Boys Town in Omaha. So we've got a lot going on. We're going to have the event, and then after the business after hours, we're going to show the original Boys Town movie with Spencer Tracy and Mickey Rooney. And I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but I think they may be raffling off an original poster from the movie with a certain Rooney signature on it.
Oh, cool.
That he signed when he visited here a few years ago. So if you get a chance, come on out. It'll be a good time.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot he was here. When they
Mr.
the addition on it, but the other
It's
one.
at the Cultural Center,
It's at the
correct?
Cultural Center
right.
inside, yes.
Yeah, what did I say?
I don't think he did say.
Oh, no.
So-
Yeah, it's at the Cultural Center.
Oviedo Park Cultural Center, sorry.
Great.
That's it.
Anything else?
No?
Anything else for the good of the order? Mr. Cobb?
No, sir.
Staff? Council? Future meeting dates. We have Monday, November 7th, 5 p.m. We have a CRA meeting. Then at 6:30 p.m. we have our regular session. November 21st, Thanksgiving week already. I can't believe I'm saying that. There'll be no meeting. And then Monday, December 5th, 6:30 p.m., we will have our regular meeting, and that'll be the only meeting in December. So with all of that being said, it is about 10 of 8, it looks like. Meeting's adjourned.